The vaults in Fallout have always been more than meets the eye. While Vault-Tec claimed to create the vaults to preserve humanity, the company also had more sinister plans to use them as live experiments to test how humans would react to specific situations. And in Vault 11, those situations were extremely dark. In 2077, right as the bombs hit the United States, Vault 11, located in the Mojave, sealed off its blast doors with a few lucky survivors who were selected by Vault-Tec. But for this vault, something was different. At the entrance, the survivors were met with the Vault's central computer system, who gave its new inhabitants a clear, but incredibly disturbing message. Every year, sacrifice one dweller. If not, everyone dies. In complete shock of what their new reality was, the Vault Dwellers looked immediately to the Overseer, blaming him for not informing them of what they were getting themselves into. The Dwellers eventually decided that they would settle the matter through an annual election. They would select someone at the beginning of the year, and that person would become an Overseer. At the end of the year, they would be sacrificed, and another person would be elected. And to get things going, in 2077, they unanimously chose the first Overseer as an act of retribution. Over the years, the effects of such a social experiment were showing themselves in full in Vault 11. By 2093, political factions had risen based on occupation. The main powers in the Vault had become the Allied Service Workers Bloc, the Divine Will Bloc, the Human Dignity Bloc, the Justice Bloc, the United Vault Technicians Bloc, and the Utilitarian Bloc. But that year, everything changed. See, the politicalization of Vault 11 came at a cost. The whole population was fragmented in opposing camps, which created intense animosity, friction, and most importantly, conflict. Corruption began to run rampant, and the tactic of manipulating important figures was on the rise. Things were becoming unstable, and the whole house of cards was about to crumble. One day, members of the Justice Bloc, the most powerful faction, sexually coerced Catherine Stone, a woman from another bloc. They threatened her, saying if she didn't comply, they would nominate her husband Nathan to become the next Overseer. And since they were so powerful, their voting choice was an effective death sentence. But even though Catherine eventually relented, they betrayed her, still nominating Nathan. This sent Catherine into a fit of rage, and she decided to take matters into her own hands. At the face of this injustice, Catherine began to execute key Justice Bloc members one by one. This had two major impacts. Firstly, she was successful in dismantling the power of the Justice Bloc. Secondly, she saved Nathan. But that would only happen as she would become the clear choice for the next election. Eventually, Catherine was elected as Overseer, and immediately, she implemented Order 745, which abolished the election system and replaced it with a random selection process. This effectively destroyed the power of the factions, which sent the Justice faction into fury. They decided to wage an armed insurgency in order to take back power, but in the end, all but 5 dwellers in the total population survived. Faced with the result of such an evil system, the remaining 5 dwellers decided to go to the computer and refuse to accept to sacrifice someone. They thought that even if they would all die, it would have been better to do so than to submit to the cruel system they were forced into just to escape the fall of the nuclear bombs. But, as I said, in Fallout, the vaults have always been more than meets the eye. See, as they refused to submit to the computer's will and braced for death, they instead got a message from the computer. They were congratulated and told that their commitment to human life is a shining example to us all, and were given the ability to leave the vault and come back whenever they pleased. This obviously came as a complete shock to the survivors. Everything they had known for the last 16 years was a complete lie. A lie that came at the cost of hundreds of people who were fighting to save their lives for what was ultimately no reason. After dropping their jaws off the floor, the 5 survivors walked to the vault entrance and recorded themselves deciding what they would do in their new reality. In the end, the group decided on ending their own lives to punish themselves for the events of the last 16 years, and to prevent the outside world from learning about their shameful behavior. Although, not everyone was on the same page. Specifically, of the 5 voices on the recording, one voice, a man's, pleaded with the others not to follow through with this idea. He tried to convince them to leave and start anew, but the rest of them refused and were determined to die. He tried to tell them that they needed to tell the world about what happened, and to get to the bottom of the mystery behind the computer and its controllers, Vault-Tec. But the recording, which was left there in the vault, told us that unfortunately, they didn't listen, as 4 gunshots rang out. But what happened to the 5th person is still unknown to this day.